Thank you for being with us here on the Joy News channel. This is The Pulse, but we're starting off with a breaking story for you this afternoon here on the Joy News channel, where an Accra High Court has just sentenced the founder of defunct Capital Bank, William Essien, to 15 years in prison with hard labor. We're getting more details on this and crossing you over now to the court premises where all of the action is happening. My colleague Richard Kojinyako and Kweku Asante are live on the grounds for us as the story unfolds. Kweku, let's start off with the shocking judgment coming through, because there was a lifeline handed over to William Essien. How come the court is changing its mind now? Well, Asante, if you can hear me, I was just asking about the latest. What's the reasoning of the court and why is this decision being taken?
And for Mr. Essien, but he had failed to pick up that deadline on 2 occasions because he had not paid the requisite amount. But our colleague Richard Kojinyako sat through court proceedings through. Yes, I'm blessed. Like I'm telling you, the founder of the defunct bank had 2 lifelines, like you mentioned, to actually pay up those amounts or go to jail. He had not paid that amount. Richard Kojinyako sat through proceedings for us. So, Richard, what was the reasoning of the court in handing out this judgment?
Well, so the court took notice of the fact that on the 27th of July 2023, Mr. Essien was given a lifeline to pay the remaining amount. So that was 55 million Ghana cedis. So the judge indicated that he expected Mr. Essien to redeem himself, having that long stretch of time from the vacation period up to 2 months. So today when they came to court, he was expecting the news from Mr. Essien that I have the money, I am coming to pay. So he defaulted in the April deadline and then defaulted in the August 31st deadline, and which gave the court no other option than to pass a sentence on him. You know that the court held the sentence in abeyance because they reached an agreement, and the agreement was that he was supposed to pay them in tranches. And so the first tranche elapsed, he couldn't pay, and then the second tranche, and so the last tranche was going to be in December. And so today, Mr. Busueshia held before Thaddeus Sorry and indicated or pleaded with the courts that, well, they have done a lot, and then they have put in place mechanisms to ensure that they get the money to pay. And so the court should tamper justice with mercy and give them some more time in order to pay. But the court said they have granted them enough time, and if they continue to give them time, they do not know to which end they are going to give that kind of time. And so a motion was filed by the state, by the Republic, passing or urging the court to pass a custodial sentence on Mr. Essien, and the court obliged.
So you are telling us that all these pleas by lawyers for Mr. Essien were simply not listened to by the court. Tell us also about the counts. There were several counts. In fact, if you look at all the counts and the sentencing, it could pass off around 90 years plus. But that is not actually how long Mr. Essien is going to spend in court. He's going to spend 15 years in hard labor. Tell us about those details and how you are computing this term of jail.
So his charges related to stealing, conspiracy to steal, money laundering, and all of that. So when the judge put all of them together, about 16 of the counts, and so he counted. With each count, he passed a sentence. Some of the sentence range from 1 year, 2 years, some 10 years, some 7 years, some 11 years, and all of that. But the highest sentence related to stealing, and which he had 15 years, considering the fact that he is a first offender. And the court also took notice of the fact that his actions caused incalculable losses of jobs to innocent citizens, considering the fact that he actually took money and decided to open his own bank as well. And so he, by so doing, other people were deprived of jobs and the others. So when you put all the count together and the sentences together, it went up to 95 years. So he was supposed to serve 95 years, but because he's serving them concurrently, we take the highest form of sentence, which is 15. And so that is why Mr. Essien is going in for 15 years.
There were plea for mitigation. In fact, NDC's Director of Legal Affairs, Eduji Kuju Tamaklo, who had handled an earlier case, hanged around, and they were all pleas for mitigation. Tell us about the plea of mitigation first, and whether or not that played any role in the judge's handling down of this judgment.
Well, so two were raised. I mean, so when the motion was filed, they opposed the motion based on two grounds. The first is that the convict respondent had exhibited utmost good faith. He did not go to sleep. In fact, he did all he could to raise 37 million Ghana cedis out of the 90 million Ghana cedis he was supposed to pay. And there are other things that were also set in motion to enable him pay. And so that is the first one. And then the second one, he's a married man. He has children. He's a breadwinner of the family and all of that. And should the state go ahead to pass that sentence on him, the state's ability to retrieve the monies that are left, the 53 million that is left for him to pay, will be very difficult, because now when the sentence was passed on him and the license was revoked, he was not working, he couldn't travel, and he has some works and businesses overseas, and so he couldn't do anything. So the court should take into consideration these facts that they have put before him, and then grant them 6 more months to enable them pay. So that was the last thing that Mr. Bonsuishia indicated, that the court should, for the final time and the last time, grant Mr. Essien 6 more months to enable them pay. In fact, there was this project at Pram Pram that was valued at $10 million, and he said that they are in the process of doing that. And so should they even get that amount, it will be able to offset the remaining amount that they have. And so these were the plea of Mr. Essien's lawyers.
Right. So, like you heard, the breaking news story we are covering for you right here at the High Court complex is that the founder of the now defunct Capital Bank, Mr. Essien, has been jailed 15 years, and he's going to jail 15 years in hard labor. And if you look at the totality of the sentence, it runs up to 95 years. But because they are all running concurrently, the court has handed down a sentence with Mr. Essien expected to spend 15 years in jail. William Essien was personally in court wearing a mask, his demeanor and other things. We'll just get into that very shortly. But the plea for mitigation, we are expecting the High Court's full ruling at a later date. We'll know whether or not this plea of mitigation played any role in Justice Eric Chebafor's judgment. Of course, if it did not, then it will mean that if the plea was taken, the sentence could have come down a little bit. But if it was not taken, it means that it could have gone a little bit higher. So it appears all that will come into some...
So the judge took into consideration all of this, because he stated that for one of the sentences, Mr. Essien could have gone in for 25 years. There was one that he could have gone in for more than 20 years. But because he acceded to the plea that they put before him, and that is why they were all reduced, considering the fact that he was a first-time offender, and then he took steps to pay. But the judge also indicated something, that when Mr. Essien continued to plead not guilty and allowed the state to call witnesses, about 17 of the witnesses, and then wasted everybody's time until the final day when he saw that judgment was going to be passed, and then pleaded guilty. All of these things, he also took them into consideration. Otherwise, maybe the sentence could have come down if he had pleaded guilty from the outset.
So if Mr. Essien pleaded guilty from the start, he could have gotten a much lesser sentencing. But as it is now, he's going to spend 15 years in jail in hard labor. What was the demeanor of Mr. Essien in court whilst all this was happening? I entered the court at some point, I saw him, lawyers around him trying to calm him down. What was his demeanor throughout the proceedings today?
Well, so I saw him in the company of a very beautiful woman, a fair-colored woman. I don't know whether that woman is the wife. That woman kept on bowing the head and then listening to the proceedings. Mr. Essien himself was in mask, and at the time the sentence was passed, I saw him, the eyes were teary. I don't know, he was very sad. So a lot of the people, the lawyers, you saw Eduji Tamaklo and then his lawyer Bonsuishia also go there to console him. I don't know, I mean, the words they exchanged with him, maybe they were trying to say that, well, it will be well. For 15 years, you may come back and all of that. We can also even go back, plead with the state, make the payments, sell the asset and all of that. So calm down. This is not the end of the world. Other people have gone. So someone used to say something that it is for these comparisons. That is why people that are in prison, they don't really bother, because you'll be there, you serve, you are in jail for 10 years. Someone, you cry, someone comes and then he's been convicted and sentenced to 35 years. You say, oh, okay, mine is 10 years. And so I presume that these were some of the conversations they had with Mr. Essien.
Yes. Edwin Tamaklo just walking around here, and that was the plea of mitigation that they put in, and it appeared to have convinced the judge a little to sentence Mr. Essien to 15 years in jail. Mr. Essien is the founder. He was the leader of the now defunct the defunct bank, Capital Bank, and that bank went under, was part of the cleanup exercise, and we will try and see if we can get Edwin Tamaklo briefly to see if we can speak to him. He's just starting his car. He had some plea of mitigation, and he has just started in his car trying to leave. But the breaking news: Mr. Essien is going to jail for 15 years, and for his role in the collapse of that bank. The bank lost a lot of money, and they could not handle all of that. But that is not the only case we'll be handling in court today. It's been a really packed day in court, and as the day goes by, I'm sure we're going to get a lot of reaction from the Attorney General's department on this particular case where Mr. Essien has been jailed for 15 years. There was also the case of the special prosecutor. He was expected to be in court today to hear the application, to actually make the application for the confirmation of the seizure order of Madam Cecilia Dapaah's property. But at the last minute, Richard, we get to know that has not been dealt with. And so, Richard, I'll come to you back shortly, but let me hand you over back to Blessed for some more conversation on this. But when we come back, you will hear about the Cecilia Dapaah case, the special prosecutor now filing a petition to the Chief Justice of the Republic, asking that the judge hearing the matter be recused from hearing any of the OSP-related matters currently before him. There was the Aisha 1 case, and there was also Dr. Stephen Opuni trying to stop his case from proceeding so that some proceeding and some matters will be corrected. He also did not find favor in the eyes of the law today. So, Blessed, this is the Essien case, the breaking news we've been covering for you live here at the High Court Complex. The CEO of the now defunct Capital Bank jailed 15 years in hard labor.
My colleague Kweku Asante there with the very latest that we're learning of the case relating to the founder of the defunct Capital Bank, William Essien, who's now being confirmed to be sentenced 15 years in prison by an Accra High Court. A packed day it has been. In fact, there's more unfolding even on the OSP case that we'll be getting back to Kweku and Richard back in court. But Raymond Akwa is joining us here in studio to break it all down for you, so you're able to, get a better perspective on this matter. Raymond, grateful that you're spending some time with us here to explain where it all started from, because for many of us, we recall that lifeline given by the court to Essien to pay up some amount of money, and then he would be walking free. That did not happen. But let's go back. Where did this all start?
Of course, he paid a certain amount of it, but could not pay all. That's where the other difficulties came in. But let's go back to 2018. And even if you want to go before that time, there was in 2014 and 2015 a certain asset quality review that was done for the Bank of Ghana to determine the asset quality review of various banks. They needed help. So the then government got them some help. Some got bailouts, as we used to call it. And that of Capital Bank was up to 620 million. That is the beginning of the conversation here. Let's not forget that Mr. Essien is actually the largest shareholder of the bank. There are other people who, together with him, were hauled before the courts on that. Some were dropped along the line. Then proceeding beyond that, the government took the view that Mr. Essien and co misappropriated the amount of money that was given, the 620 million, in different formats that they didn't like. They mentioned the setting up of certain other institutions and also monies that they couldn't account for. In fact, that's what brought in the charge of stealing along the line, because they could not. This was monies meant to bail out the bank, but were deemed to have been misappropriated or stolen in this particular case. The case moved on, and somewhere in 2021, we're supposed to get judgment from the court. Remember, that's when along the line, we had introduced the new law that allowed people to return cash to the state when we found that they admitted to the wrongdoing here. So he then pleaded, and after calling 17 different witnesses, the state closed his case. Then Mr. Essien was supposed to reopen his case. First, there were some hiccups with that. Then, subsequently, he was given the opportunity to open up or his defense in this case. He proceeded with that particular defense. Then, after they went through that process too, came back, agreed with the states, with the Attorney General's office. I remember it was a very contentious issue as to whether or not we should allow people to pay when they had actually been found or were going to be found guilty of some of these offenses. But the state had an agreement with him to pay back some of the money. You recall that confusion around Justice Cheba for saying or alluding to the fact that this was not supposed to be a proper process. Initially, we were told that if he failed to pay, we could reactivate the process of jailing him.
And that was a clear warning.
Yes, we were told right from the beginning that if he failed to pay, Mr. Essien on 2 different occasions had gone back to the court to ask for some other lenient terms. He was given one in the first instance. In fact, there was even an extension in the second deadline that was supposed to be given. It is the failure to go by that second deadline and seeking a further engagement on this, which became problematic, which then led to the state insisting that Mr. Essien should be committed to jail.
In fact, there's a bigger question now as to what the legal options are. If Mr. Essien, together with legal team, are able to confirm that, well, we have the funding now, will the courts reverse its decision or perhaps revise the case?
It's one of the issues that came up in the earlier engagement. That at what point can we say that you have raised the money even if we have changed? Because it were 2 routes that were suggested.
Settle and you walk free.
Yes, and you walk free. If you are unable to pay, you go to jail and serve the sentence. The argument at the time was that it was of no use to everybody in the Republic of Ghana to incarcerate Mr. Essien when the alternative could be he will pay and get back the money from him.
I see.
It had always been difficult, and the people who defended this law had been clear in their minds that it had always been difficult to incarcerate and recoup the money. So that was where the difficulty was going to be like. Would he be able to raise the money now? Is he also required within the period to raise the money? We need to see how and when they will have to file before the same judge for some understanding of this. So it's almost like we truncated your judgment or your sentencing because you've been found guilty. That was settled. We truncated your sentencing to give you a leeway out. And this leeway was that if you get us an amount of money, and it was not even an amount that was being discussed out there in the first place. It was a lower amount that was being given in the first place. So if you're able to pay according to the terms that we give you,
then you are free.
So if you follow the terms properly, and people were even adduced to the fact that he had paid some amount of the money. I mean, he had actually indicated to the court that he was interested in paying the rest of the money within a period that he was not able to raise the money. That is what brought the confusion here. So as to whether or not getting the money later on can now go back to renegotiate this, it will be what he will put before that same court. And basically ask for some understanding on this one. But will the court listen to him, mindful of how he had dealt with this matter? Mindful of his conduct in this particular case.
And what's also instructive, that this is not just a 15-year jail term, there's also hard labor. Implications?
No, I mean, it's a term that we give.
We shouldn't be laughing about this. But
no, it's a very serious matter. You can be in prison, but this one, you have to work very, very hard alongside that. And that's how difficult that's supposed to be. I mean, for a man of his age, for a man of his comfort and living and luxury, would he be able to live under those circumstances? But of course, we cannot discriminate merely because you used to live a very luxurious lifestyle or you were a man of comfort previously. The argument generally has been that how we treat some of these crimes do not only serve as a reminder to people that it's not only the punitive nature of it that matters, that it's also deterrent to a certain population, that this is something we generally do not want people to be doing. Let's not forget, the collapse of the banks led to a massive debt on our hands. Government still quotes something around 22 billion. Let's not forget that. We used 22 billion to resolve these banks. Beyond that, people lost their jobs. People struggled to retrieve the amount of money they're supposed to be having with some of these institutions. Let's also not forget that we had absorbed some of these banks and a new engagement of CBG and carried on its operations beyond that. Those who are of the opinion we need to send a signal, and that's the difficulty with banking resolutions. Yeah. If you do not do it properly, it leaves a very lasting image on the entire financial system because they are interconnected at various levels.
And in fact, the argument is already starting as to whether or not government should feel vindicated for its banking sector cleanup, a reason for which, Essien is being jailed now. The questions about this giving morale to the Attorney General to go after more and more persons who are cited in various reforms.
Initially, and that was in the civil case, there were 15 or 17 people that were held before court, including the board chairman of the Capital Bank. Those were related to what we call the civil case.
Right.
Now, we also had a criminal case ongoing. Let's not forget that initially it was not only Mr. Essien that was in this particular end. There were other people who were later on let go. So the prosecution took it from a certain level. Many people were still very dissatisfied with the pace at which this prosecution was going because they needed a signal to be sent to people. Let's not forget that what happened in the U.S. after the financial crisis, there were still calls that people who were at the heart of it should be dealt with properly. Why are financial crimes of this nature important? It's because people think that ownership of bank is as if it's only your money that's in the bank. It's not true. It's because you take depositors' money and somebody had to jump in to come and guarantee that the depositors will get their money, even if you mess up with the money. I hope you get the point. Yeah. And the arguments that were being made at the time, about which options to choose in resolving financial crisis is after a bailout. If you go through administration, could we have, for example, decided that we are replacing the leadership of the bank without dissolving the banks, the ones that were dissolved? Or as we chose to now spend this amount of money, could we have spent a far lesser amount of money in that case?
I see.
But that is separate from we believing that you have committed a crime and that you should be dealt with separately on this one.
Raymond, it's going to be a long day because so many activities in court as we speak, but grateful for giving us all of the updates. We'll definitely be breaking down this further and getting Raymond to explain a bit more to us. But we cross over again to the courts because even as we speak, the Office of the Special Prosecutor is requesting the Chief Justice to remove His Lordship Edward Choom from the case or all cases involving the OSP pending before him. Now, according to the Special Prosecutor, the request is grounded on the OSP's well-founded belief that Justice Edward Choom appears to be highly prejudiced against the OSP and person of the Special Prosecutor. My colleague Richard Kochinyako and, of course, Kweku Asante are still in court for us. So, Kweku, let's get back to the second case, which is also of interest to Ghanaians as we speak, the issue about the OSP raising concerns with the manner in which the Cecilia Abinadapa case is being dealt with. What's been happening in court?
Brutally responded to this petition. They felt that the Office of the Special Prosecutor has not really dealt well with them. In fact, first of all, he should have been in court personally because, the cases were two, one a criminal case and then the civil case. So the first one is for the confirmation of seizure of the cash sums that were seized from the matrimonial home of Madam Cecilia Abinadapa. The second one was confirmation for the freezing order of the bank account of Madam Cecilia Abinadapa. But the Office of the Special Prosecutor wrote to the Chief Justice petitioning him to let the judge recuse or remove the judge from anything related, any trial or any sitting related to Justice Edward Choom, because according to him, it is not only his attitude and conduct is not only towards the Office of the Special Prosecutor, but to the Special Prosecutor himself. So there are two, the office in general and the Special Prosecutor himself. And so that was what the petition was about. They feel that the judge will be biased. Remember that it was the same judge who refused the confirmation of application, the earlier one that was filed, and so it was the same judge that also granted the abridgment of time yesterday. And so taking all of these things in totality and then the conduct according to the Office of the Special Prosecutor, if the judge is allowed to sit on the case to to look at the confirmation of the thing, maybe it will not augur well for them. And so that's why he is asking the Chief Justice to enable the judge to recuse. But the lawyers for the former sanitation minister, they feel that the Office of the Special Prosecutor has not really dealt well with them. And so that is really their comment.
Right. So we've heard from the lawyer, from Madame Cecilia Dapa, who was really fierce on the feet, in fact punching holes to some of the applications that the Special Prosecutor had filed. The criminal matter having to do with Cecilia Dapa and the failure to disclose properties is also before Justice Chum.
Yes, exactly. So the Office of the Special Prosecutor served some forms on Madame Cecilia Dapa for her to fill in relation to her property, the property that she has. But according to the Office of the Special Prosecutor, within a period of 30 days, the former minister failed to respond to the service on her, and that is why they have initiated the criminal proceedings against her. And so that is what is related to that. But the lawyers of Madam Cecilia Dapa indicate that the service was not even properly done. They also even say that the Office of the Special Prosecutor is just buying time, and such conduct is having an adverse effect on Madam Cecilia Dapa, because here is a woman whose cash has been seized, whose bank account has been frozen, and she has no money. And so why continue to buy time when they even filed for the abridgment of time? They opposed to that application, and they wanted to maintain the 18th of October, the original date when they were supposed to come. And so in totality, he feels that the Attorney General has been unethical, because he should have been present. And there is no law, no procedure within our jurisprudence that when someone files or a petition to the chief before the Chief Justice, that particular person cannot appear in court or even serve notice to the other party, so that they will be well versed with whatever decision they are taking. And secondly, he feels that there was no complaint made about the conduct of the judge, so they have all been taken by surprise that they come to court and then a service has been given to them that the OSP has filed a petition. And so that is by way of response that the lawyers from Madam Cecilia Dapa gave.
Yes, so Madam Cecilia Dapa's lawyers making a strong case in court why they believe that that is not an important petition to file against the hearing. But Richard, we're in court for other matters.
Exactly.
Aisha 1 and the likes.
Exactly. So what happened in the case of Aisha 1?
So today we expected that Aisha 1's case, the judgment will be delivered today. But as it were, what was expected to happen was the filing of the written addresses. And so the written addresses, as we know now, have been filed by both the prosecution led by the Attorney General himself and also the defense lawyers. We know that all throughout, Madam Aisha 1, popularly known as Aisha 1, has denied any involvement with galamsey in the country. In fact, she goes as far as to say that she has not even visited any of the illegal mining sites that government says that she has been going onto. So the judgment is now expected on the 4th of December. 4th of December, Madam Aisha 1 will decide, her fate will be decided by the criminal court here in Accra as to whether or not she gets to go to jail or she will be freed based on the evidence that have been taken by both the prosecution in terms of the delivery of that and the defense that have been put out by the lawyers for Madam Aisha 1.
Was N1 herself in court today?
So she was not. This was simply the lawyers filing their, what in the US and other places we call the closing addresses, to, as it were, sum up all the evidence that they have led in court, to, as it were, make a last-ditch attempt at convincing the judge to take their side. So all these have now been filed by the court. The judge is now going to study that. It is going to form part of he writing his judgment for the case now to be heard, for the judgment now to be delivered on the 4th of December.
So I saw the Attorney General also here. Was he in court in respect of this case?
No, he did not show up at that venue. But the Attorney General actually went to the courtroom where the minority leader, Dr. Kisela Tufosin's case is being heard. They are still doing case management. They are trying for the defense now to call subsequent witnesses. And so we are going to hear from the former governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Wampa. We are going to hear from a former health minister, Mr. Lesegbefia, as to how long the cross-examination will be, the examination in chief. The Attorney General himself was around. He said generally that he wanted to do so in an hour. the lawyers for Mr. Atufosin at some point said that they wanted to have 3 hours. The judge would not have any of that. So there was that. And then the final case we have been following before we hand over back to studio for the rest of the conversation to continue is Dr. Stephen Opuni, the former CEO of Cocoa Board. Today he made another attempt to pause his case.
So just to take you back, so what's about this case?
The Dr. Stephen Opuni and the founder of Agricult, Stephen Agongu, are standing trial for some contract that is signed that the state believes that there was malfeasance involved, there was corruption, that the state has not been properly represented by the way Dr. Stephen Opuni and Seydou Agongu, a private businessman, handled that case. So they are standing trial, and this case has been going on.
We'll definitely be bringing you some updates as and when we have them. My colleagues Kuku Asante and also Richard Kujunyako, they're giving us the latest judgment date is in court, especially when it comes to the case of William Essien, 15 years plus hard labor for him in the defunct Capital Bank case. And also we're learning more about the Agricult and Cocoa Board CEO case, which is also related to the banking sector. To some other corruption-related issues. Then we're learning of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, where Cecilia Abinadapa is also in court today with the OSP making another case for why he believes that the former sanitation minister is guilty. So let's hear from private legal practitioner Kweku Pencil, who's joining us via Zoom now. Quite a very busy day in court, lawyer. But let's start off with Cecilia Abinadapa, because we know that there's a petition actually to the Chief Justice, the feeling that the judge handling all her cases appear to be prejudiced. What's your legal take on this matter?
You're talking about the petition by the OSP to the Chief Justice?
Precisely, sir.
Yeah, I will put it this way. There is an aspect of the rules of court that relates to what we call it nemo judice in causa sua. It's a Latin expression for no man shall be a judge in his own cause. It relates to any situation in which there is some evidence or possibly perception that whoever is presiding over a case, in the case of judges, whoever is presiding over a case has some interest or has some bias or has some attitude that makes it appear that the judge will be incapable of delivering justice in accordance with law. Whenever you've got that kind of impression, then it entitles you to bring a proper application before the court to do what we call on the basis of an allegation that for some just or sufficient reason, the judge is incapable of administering justice in accordance with law. In other words, the judge is not fairly balanced in the scales of justice to do that. Now, that's what I hear the OSP is trying to do. As to whether the procedure he has adopted is the right procedure is a different matter altogether. And I want to speak to that. Because if a matter before court and a judge consistently does things in a particular way, in this case, if my understanding is right, it's possible about the judge's response to the case of the OSP, which is to mean or to suggest that he's being denied, oppose all the reliefs and the requests and whatever it's asking for. If that is so, then it's decisions that the judge is making. He may be wrong, he may be right. He may be totally wrong. People must not believe that every time a judge makes a ruling or takes a decision, the judge says as King Solomon. He does not. But the response to that kind of consistency in refusing a request is by way of lodging an appeal. Because when you've done an appeal, you essentially disagree with what the judge has said or what the judge's decision is. And then you give an opportunity for a 3-member panel, what we call the 3 wise men, to give a decision which then may or may not agree with what the judge is saying. So that's the normal way of attacking a judge's decision, however you feel about it. So the mere fact that a judge rules consistent in a particular direction, it does not itself suggest that the judge is biased. But if you believe or have evidence, please, I'm talking about evidence, because the letter that
unfortunately,
has written,
unfortunately, we've run out of time, sir. We'll have to cut it short here. Kweku Pencil, a lawyer there, joining us to analyze these matters. Thank you. Apologies there. We're running out of time. You're watching The Pulse. When we get back, we'll bring you some other stories.
Our world is a complex one, and in it, only the smart and intelligent win. At Bright Senior High School, we know this. That's why, with our state-of-the-art science laboratory, customized textbooks, and curriculum-based workbooks, we continue to make history every year. For more than a decade, Bright Senior High School has chalked stellar performances at the WASI, guided by smart and professional graduate teachers.
At Bright Senior High School, every student is a priority.
This school has groomed me from the future. I wasn't a good student when I came here, but now I'm noticed as one of the best students in this school.
Admission is in progress. Call now on 0242 071 185 or 0277 147 727 or visit brightshs.com.gh. Bright Senior High School, building dreams.
Hello, my name is Abeku Agri Santana. If there's anything that makes my life so easy, it is my bank. I love hanging out with my boys at our usual fufu joint. But even without cash, we still dey chop better with EcoBank Mobile. No matter the time of day, my bank helps me stay in touch with my beautiful wife whenever she's away. And when my beautiful wife is in town, she never misses out on her favorite TV shows because I'm able to pay up all my TV subscriptions from the comfort of my mobile phone. Whenever she has to get groceries too, my bank makes it cashless and convenient. And the part my wife loves the most is when my bank makes it possible and easy for her to shop from any part of the world without moving.
Welcome to the smart world of EcoBank. Download EcoBank Mobile from Google Play Store or the App Store and discover the smart way to bank. EcoBank, the Pan-African bank.
This is a groundbreaking collaboration that has changed the game for Ghanaians. DVLA has partnered with Ghana Post to bring unprecedented convenience and accessibility to our valued customers. Under this agreement, your driver's license will be delivered to you anywhere in Ghana upon your request. Our aim is to provide our customers with seamless customer-friendly services, and this collaboration has brought us a step closer to achieving that. So, take advantage of this partnership and get your driver's license delivered to you wherever you are. DVLA, your safety, our concern. This advert is brought to you by DVLA and
your calendar for our annual alumni homecoming and the grand celebration of UPSA's 58th anniversary as we gather under the theme, The Global Impact of Professionals in Business. Program lineup for the celebration are as follows. Friday, 27th October 2023, ignite the night with a bonfire and drama performances with old school dressing, variety of entertainment at 7 p.m. Saturday, 28th October, get your adrenaline pumping with alumni fun games. Current students will contribute to a noble cause with blood donation starting at 7 a.m. Tuesday, 31st October, mentorship sessions at 2 p.m. All activities will take place right on the UPSA campus where it all began. For more information, visit our website at www.upsaglobalalumni.com or contact the UPSA Alumni Office on 0243-288-579 or Room 19 Central Administration. UPSA, scholarship with professionalism.
Daddy, this tank is big.
Yes, that's true.
It can store a lot of water.
That's so true.
Wow. It has a working tortoise on it.
That's so true.
I can see Sintex. Sintex.
That is so true, my daughter.
When it falls down, it will spoil.
That's not true.
But why?
Hey! Sintex was the first to introduce double-layer tanks in Ghana. Sintex again was the first to introduce white inner layers in Ghana. Sintex gives you the biggest warranty, 7 years. No matter your water needs, Sintex is the answer. Sintex tank. Are you strong? Are you
And thanks for staying with us. The Multimedia Group is happy to be partnering with the Ghana Institute of Engineering for their 2023 Annual Ethics Lecture. Engineer Ludwig Annan-Hesse, President-elect and also Chair of the Group of Professional Practice and Ethics. That's Engineer Dr. Annan Bekwe is also joining us. He's a chairperson of the planning committee, I believe. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us in studio. Let's talk about this decision, of course, to partner with the Multimedia Group. What is informing the decision, first of all?
Well, ethical behavior in our country has become a major issue for us. We as engineers and engineering practitioners take proper behavior as a crucial part of our engineering practice. Right. And but as we can see in our country now, everywhere you go, what people discuss is our bad behavior. In everything we do, in discipline on the streets, in the way public sector people are working, the way we are delivering public service, infrastructure, and all those things. And these are big issues for us. So this year, we do this annual ethics lecture just to remind our people of how to behave in the practice of engineering. But we thought that the environment in which we are operating now is an issue. Right. The national values. Are there really national values that we are adhering to? And how are they affecting the way we behave as engineers and other professionals in the way we practice?
I see. So what ethical topic has been chosen for this this event?
The national values, professional practice, and engineering ethics.
Right. That's the
improving national values, professional practice, and engineering ethics. That's the topic here.
Is there anything inspiring this? Really, the decision to center all of this around the theme that we are looking at this year?
Precisely so. I think he gave the background to that. And indeed, whether we are able to develop an ethical society depends on our national values. And there's always a linkage between national values and the ethical behavior of the people involved. And engineers, as he said, play an important role in this space, in the development of our nation, and that is what is inspiring us to do this. Just to say that, indeed, this is an annual lecture that we do. We've been doing this for some years now, almost the past 20 years, consistently, annually, and we typically get renowned people to speak on this issue. And if I may jump the gun, this year we intend to bring a renowned engineer Yao Nsako, a chemical engineer by profession, and a former vice president of Unilever. He's someone who has led in the ethical space over the period, and he will be dissecting the topic, how the synergy between our national values and ethical behavior of engineers.
I see. Also, beyond the dialogue, what are you expecting as, some of the concrete outcomes of this engagement?
Really, it's, we're trying to be part of the national discussion on ethical behavior in national life.
Right.
And we think, in the 1970s, under Kutu Acheampong, we started this Charter of Redemption. And it was a value system. But of course, the leaders themselves failed to live by those values. Later on, Rawlings and his group came, and the buzzwords were probity, accountability, and all those things. What has happened to all those value systems? We want to go back to it because some of us believe that really a lot of the things we talk about really is related to how we are behaving as Ghanaians. And if we don't have a focus on this and have a change in the way we behave, then we're going nowhere.
Right, I see. Let's get your final words to our viewers, what you'd want them to know about the event and why everyone should be following the discussion.
Yes, just to once again put it in context, the event is happening on the 26th of October. It's on Thursday. All roads, everybody is leading to the Ghana Institution of Engineering, Engineer Center. But we also have an online link, which if we can make them available, you can register online and you can be part of it from online. But we encourage each and every one of you to be come to Engineer Center or engineers. But beyond engineers, we are also hoping that all people who believe that our nation needs to change our paradigm in terms of our ethical behavior should be there. Our leadership, the Chief Justice will be the chair, and everyone should be there. So the take home is that please be there on the 26th, and we want to also use this opportunity to thank Joy FM and all our partners, B Power, Volta River Authority, and Fabri Meta for the partnership. And it's a day you shouldn't miss. Mark it on your calendar and treat all our professional bodies. And this is also going to count towards our CPDs, continuous professional development. So please be there as professional engineers and you will not regret coming. Thank you.
Tropical cables is also...
Tropical cables.
I see. And I'm grateful that you've been able to join us. Of course, the theme is on improving national values, professional practice, and engineering. So you'd want to be following that. Joy News would definitely bring you that interaction. But I'm grateful, gentlemen, for spending some time with us in studio. We'll be bringing you another conversation shortly. But we're also learning that President Akufo-Addo has been touching on some of the threats to democracy in the West Africa SAP region. He's been speaking in the United States a while ago.
Lead in finding solutions to this phenomenon. Maybe the best situation for us is to say that, but this is not our problem. So let it be the resolution of those who created the problem in the first place. Yeah. So, I mean, for instance, we're told that we should discontinue the development of our fossil fuels. But our fossil fuels are not the ones that have given rise to the emissions of the world. Ours are largely dormant. So why should we agree to terminating their development? These are all problems that we're all having to face together. And I think that the better, the sooner the mindset becomes a more collaborative mindset, then the better it is for the human race.
Mr. President, you're right. Global solutions are required for many of the challenges that we face around the world today. You talked in your comments about the need for reform of international institutions, both the political institutions and the financial institutions. In your estimation, what would a restructured UN look like? What would a restructured UN Security Council look like in your view? And what are the ways of really pushing for this today. The Biden administration has come out and clearly stated that Africa deserves deserves a permanent non-veto holding seat on the Security Council. Is that adequate? Is that sufficient?
I think
what is Africa?
I think that those words in itself tell you about the limitations of the policy that is being advocated. The veto power of the 5 nations is clearly one of the problems of the international situation today. The big problem there is about the Russian invasion of Ukraine cannot be dealt with by the Security Council because Russia is a veto-wielding member of the Security Council, and it refuses to allow this matter to be debated and deliberated at the Security Council. The Security Council that is supposed to be responsible, principally responsible for the maintenance of international peace and security, is unable to act in one of the most important international events of recent times, the Russian aggression against Ukraine. Now, that cannot be a satisfactory situation for anybody who has the interests of the global community at heart. And it means, therefore, that the reforms that have to be undertaken by the United Nations, I think the most fundamental of those reforms, that we have to get rid of the veto. Yeah.
Majority rule on the Council?
The majority rule on the Council.
Expanded permanent membership?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is the way in which we will have a Security Council that is truly representative of what is going on in the rest of the world. When the people met in San Francisco in 1945, Ghana, we were under colonial rule. You look at the records of the people who took place in San Francisco, there's no mention of Ghana. Even in its colonial name, Gold Coast, were not there. And there are lots and lots and lots of virtually all the countries of Africa were not present. And many, many parts of Asia were not present. So the formation that took place there, relevant it must have been for those who had initiated and concluded the Second World War, did not take into account vast stretches of humanity. Today, these countries are now present on the international security. And therefore, there is a need to create a council and its governing, United Nations and its governing institutions, which take into account the presence of all these people. And
Mr. President, does that mean an advocacy for not just one, but for 2 permanent African
I think that the discussions have to of course, I mean, there's a representative nature. China is the only one that represents Asia. There are other major Asian countries, India, Japan, Indonesia, whose claims to representation cannot be ignored. With this, the same, there's nobody from Latin America, so Brazil, Argentina, they're not there. You come to our own continent, Nigeria, South Africa, so the discussions have to focus on finding an equilibrium for determining the contours of representation on the council, and secondly, to have a functioning of the council that recognizes that we can never be in a situation whereby one nation, by its exercise of the veto power, can prevent discussions on this or that issue. That there will always be at any one time majorities for how the humanity views progress in particular part. So yes, an expanded membership of the council, which makes it a much more representative body. Secondly, a council that operates like our countries do. People are elected by majority vote to go and pursue particular policies. So the council also should be a council that works at the global level on the basis of majority decision making. It's too much to ask for unanimity, because that will mean a different kind of blockage. But that majorities work. I think these are some of the fundamental contours of the new UN Security Council, in which some of us are very keen on seeing come into being.
Equally, the international financial institutions here in this town, the IMF and the World Bank, have dominated the global financial institutions. What kinds of reforms do you think need to be made in those institutions? I know there's a IMF meeting going on this week in Marrakesh, and the managing director of the IMF has announced that there will be a request for one new African executive director position to give Africa 3 executive directors on the executive board, raising Africa's voice and profile in the institution. Is this enough? And is the...
Well, it's certainly a step in the right direction. There can be no doubt about that. And the subsequent measures that can be taken around that, all of these are clearly steps in the right direction. But I think at the end of the day, there's a more fundamental reform of the Bretton Woods institutions that we have to look at for this 21st century. It has now become obvious when you're talking about mobilizing global resources. There is much more resources in private hands now than there are in the hands of public institutions. I mean, I don't know what the exact equation is, but I believe it's an equation that is at least 1 to 10 as to what is in the private sector vis-a-vis what is in the public sector. So finding a way where private and public sectors can be brought together to assist in the process of global mobilization has to be the key that all of us are looking at. And my own understanding, the understanding of our government, is that the 2 key institutions, the IMF and the World Bank, should now be looking at themselves as being catalysts for mobilizing these greater resources that there are in private hands to assist the whole process of global development. And the role that they will play of being facilitators, guarantors, insurance of taking the whole process of de-risking the difficulties of the private capital will have in moving into areas, especially, quote, in the so-called global south, has to be the main preoccupation of the reform of the system. Yes, the reforms in terms of positions, of giving more space for voices from Africa and other parts of the world, that's an important step forward. But I believe the more fundamental reform that has to take place is the reform as to the purpose, the way in which these organizations are going to be operating in the future. And I think there we need a more radical shift in attitude, in structure, and in purpose.
Agreed. You're absolutely right, Mr. President. Private capital has to be mobilized and incentivized to work alongside these institutions. One last question on the financial side. The BRICS. There's been a great discussion in some parts of the global south about the BRICS. They've expanded to include 2 new African countries beyond South Africa. Do the BRICS offer an alternative?
I don't know. Well, the jury has to be out on that. We will see. Yeah, because as to how they will operate, because the basis on which the choice was made in itself. I mean, Ethiopia, I believe, is one.
Yes.
It's Ethiopia and...
Ethiopia and Egypt have joined South Africa as a part of the BRICS.
Is there a reason why Nigeria was excluded? So that's what I'm saying, that the jury is going to have to be out on this matter. Yeah. We will see as it goes on whether they will operate any differently from the other global institutions that there are.
Understood. Mr. President, as we wind up, let me ask the question, how can the United States be a stronger and better partner to Ghana and to West Africa?
And we'll definitely get you some updates on this, as the President has been touching on very wide issues, which we'll be breaking down for you in our subsequent bulletins. But let's talk about the Bold New Normal Conference 2023. Well, the conference, we know, empowers young people to actively engage in conversations and co-create an economically empowered continent. Well, Lucy Quist, an author, and of course the convener for the conference, is joining us in studio to talk all about this. The Bold New Normal.
The Bold New Normal.
Many of us have read the book, and we just can't have enough of the conferences each time it happens. But it's happening again this year, and it's on the 21st of October.
It is.
Why is it coming back?
The conference is coming back because the response in the first year, last year, was phenomenal. And when I say response, I don't just mean in terms of attendance, but in terms of what people have gone on to do, in terms of creating this economically empowered continent. But the big learning out of the conference is that there's so many change makers around the continent and around the world who want to see an economically empowered Africa. So many things we need to get done, but they need a platform and a forum to pull them together, to work together, and to create that economic prosperity that we need.
Well, we're assuming that everyone knows about the Bold New Normal, but apologies, not everyone knows about it.
No,
about the book and about the conference.
Absolutely.
So what's the Bold New Normal?
Yeah, so I'll never be presumptuous in assuming that everybody should know what the Bold New Normal is. You know, the Bold New Normal was born out of my journey of learning about our continent and what we need on the African continent to really thrive and create an economically empowered continent. Now, that sounds very big, but in reality, what we need is a transformation of the individual that will then lead to that transformation. So the book was written really to empower people through shifting their mindsets, shifting their language, focusing on bigger visions, because we need more visionary leadership at all levels, not just at the highest sort of what we deem political, but at individual levels, and to work together to create that. So that was how the book was born, and it takes people on that journey. 3 years later, we launched the first Bold New Normal conference, which was last year. This year's the second one, and it gives those change makers the opportunity to come together, because over time what we're creating is a coalition of change makers who are in different spheres of life, different professions, different responsibilities, but all want the same thing, an economically empowered Ghana and Africa.
Is that not becoming a rhetoric? Because many say we're speaking about it, but the change isn't happening as fast.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked me that question. You're right. A lot of them, probably even people watching go, oh, we've heard this one before. Yeah. What's different with the Bold New Normal is that change is about the individual. You know, I can walk up to you and position change and try and instruct you on what you need to do differently. That's not the point with the Bold New Normal. The Bold New Normal is about the change I need to make to influence the sphere within which I operate. And it really boils it down to really fundamental areas where we need to make change, right? So we talk about management of our resources, but we forget that the management of our resources is done by individuals who work in these organizations. So it's not just the boss of the organization, but how are the people who are working in the organization really ensuring that the resources are well managed? We talk about food security and sufficiency, right? Our agriculture has a long value chain. We have wastage in the value chain. We have insufficient supply, so many different factors that lead to high prices. But that value chain is occupied by people. So the point of the Bold New Normal is the transformation of the individual who is involved in creating the economic output for us, so that as each of us makes that shift, we will all add up to a better economic outcome.
And you are undoubtedly successful at what you do. There are many out there who are wondering if they can also aspire to such greater heights. Will you discover more about yourself if you get to attend this conference?
You would absolutely discover more about yourself, but more importantly, you will be inspired by people who are on the same journey, and you will also be instructed on how to shift your mindset. Now, the interesting thing, you asked a very leading question when you said, I'm seen as successful. And on the surface of it, of course, you're right. But the truth of the matter is, and as I shared with a group last night, my father comes from a village, not Kumasi, near Kumasi, actually near just beyond, inside. My mother is a Ga woman. They both grew up in farming communities in Ghana, not in any of the cities. Right. And so I believe that their transformational journeys are what created people like me. And I've had my own struggles, but not in terms of the same struggle that they had. But what I do know, and this was my earliest learning and realization way back in 1983, right. You may have been a child or not born, right? But yes. In 1983, as a child, a Ghanaian child, I experienced what it was like to not have enough food, have money and not find food, have shortage of various supplies. I have lived through the hardship that we experience as a country. And I know what it's like to be that child who's sitting under that tree. I have been here, not having money to pay my school fees and sitting there and thinking, what is my life going to come to? So this is not born out of a lofty product and outcome that people may see as me. It's born out of my own personal real life experiences and family experiences that say, you know what, we need to stop wasting potential, wasting our human capital. We need to transform our human capital to transform our economy.
But what I am excited about is that you're providing the opportunity to many to also take advantage of the network that this Bold New Normal conference will present. Who can be a part of the conference?
Fundamentally, I say that it's the heart of it are people who want change. But they want change where they will be participants. There's a difference between change where I show up and I think I have a superior perspective and I'll try to tell. And there's a different, and then the other side of change is I'm willing to do the work, to roll up my sleeves and get it done. So the heart of the conference are change makers who want to see a way forward. They want to connect and meet with other change makers who are like-minded. And it's also so a lot of the time, those people will, by and large, be young professionals, mid-career, but then you have older people. So our speaker mix is both the young who will demonstrate by example and also older people who've been on a longer journey.
Lucy, so Saturday, the 21st of October, 2023, that's when it's happening.
Absolutely.
Are we getting a free copy of this too?
So the copies of the book will be available at the conference as well. A few people might win a copy or two, so you want to be there.
Those of you who can watch this on the screens right now. Yes.
But the book is available in Ghana at booknook.so. People watching internationally, it's on all Amazon, in fact, all good book outlets. But most importantly, 21st of October, 2023, which is the Saturday after the upcoming Saturday. It's in person and virtual because it's important that people who can't make it in, and we did the same last year, are able. And the virtual participants are actually not just observers, they actually participate. We engage with them, they ask questions, they give their thoughts and feedback. It's very interactive the whole day, so it's not like you're an audience member, you're just going to sit there and be told. And then the other thing that's interesting is that I will personally host a masterclass in the afternoon. So the masterclass the title of the masterclass is Living with the Audacity to Win Differently. And I do that because it's an amplified version of the mentoring that I normally do. And this is not for just anybody, but just to wrap on that point, people can go to my website to sign up. They can go to Ego Tickets to sign up. And they can also sign up through our short code, which is *713*33*52#.
I'll give you a summary. If you get there, you'll be bold, you'll be new, you'll be normal. That's what this conference is guaranteeing.
It is, because what we see as normal, you and I will look outside and complain about things, but we need to change what we see as normal, but we have the courage to do so.
Thank you, Lucy, for spending some time with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
And of course, the 2023 National Science and Maths Quiz is still on. We're crossing over now to Emmanuel Kweku, who's on stand.